So how do you buy a stock on a trading application? That's exactly what I'm going to be showing you on this video. This is part 3 of the 4-part series, and the part 4, which is the last part after this, is going to be the live trading session. That will give you a taste of what the Learn Plan Profit team gets to experience every single day. I really hope that you learned something new. Consider dropping a thumbs up and, of course, subscribing if you feel like we earned it. Let's go ahead and jump into my screen. The market just closed, and one of the things that I want to show you is, first off, on the Webull trading application, how do you even buy a stock? How do you even sell a stock? Well, because the market just closed, just a little reminder, you can't even buy with a market order, right? So you can see the different order types. Again, if you want to learn a little bit more about these different order types and how it all works, I explain it in more detail in LPP, but this is just to give you a gist of how to buy and how to sell a stock. Let's say that I want to buy Apple, right? Apple is $193.13 per share. The difference, just so you understand how to read this, the negative 1.01% is simply from where it closed at, from when the market closed, to where it previously closed at from yesterday's close. So it's just calculating the difference. Yesterday was trading at a higher price point that it is right now. Now, it doesn't mean that Apple is not green at all today. As you can see, at one point, Apple was indicating signs of an uptrend, but then Apple ultimately ended up selling off. And again, for those that didn't lock in profits, ended up losing 1.01% if you held from yesterday's close, right? Now, when asking the question, how do I buy a stock? Again, if market were open, one of the order types that you can use that's most commonly used is a market, meaning that you buy at market price. Whatever it is that you see up here for the big number, you get filled at whatever the current market value is. When it comes down to limit order, you simply control the actual price that you buy at. But therefore, if that market price never hits that limit price, then you'll never actually get filled, right? So market price, and then all you have to do is select the quantity of shares that I want to buy. Very simple math. If Apple is $193 per share and I want to buy 10 shares, that's going to be $1,930, right? If I want to buy 100 shares, right, then I type in 100, and then we can see right on over here. So if I want to buy 100 shares, I can click day, which means, again, it's going to trigger within the day, and then I just click buy Apple. But obviously, regular trading hours, it doesn't allow me to buy with a market order, so this is just a little tip. If you're using something like the Webull trading application, I could buy during extended hours, and all I have to do is I have to click a limit order. I can initiate it with 100 shares. I have to turn on EXT. Very simple, right? So all I look at is, okay, this is the current price. I want to buy at 193.24. This is a limit price, which simply means that I'm going to control the price point that I want to get filled at. You put the number of shares that you want to buy, right? So normally when I originally buy a stock, I normally want to buy very light, but again, you always have different intentions when you're trading something, right? So you might want to go aggressive, you might want to go light, whatever the case might be. This is just to show you how to buy a stock. And then EXT just means extended hours, which means pre-market or after market hours. If you ever want to trade during those hours, then again, you have to turn on EXT to be able to enforce that. And yes, you could only buy with a limit order. You cannot buy with a market order during after market hours. So now that I have all of that set, again, this is just time enforced. It's just day, that just stays the same. I go ahead and I click buy Apple. And then this is my order confirmation. Am I sure that I want to buy Apple stock? Buy, right? Apple stock quantity, 100 shares with a limit price of $193.24. And then obviously extended hours. And then the amount is now 19,000, right? Because 10 would have been 1,900. Now it's $19,324. If I click buy yes, then it will initiate the order to buy at that specific limit price. Now, if I ever want to sell, let's say I buy those 100 shares. Now I own 100 shares, and those 100 shares will pop up right here under my positions tab, right? Now, if I want to sell those 100 shares, I will click limit 100, whatever price I want to sell at. Again, if I'm trading during extended hours, then I turn on EXT. If I'm trading during normal market hours, I can click market price, and then I would just click sell. It would pop up with the order confirmation. It shows me everything. I confirm it, and if so, then I click confirm, right? And I click place order. That is the simple idea of how to buy and how to sell a stock. Now, there are some stocks that allow you to short. Not something that I would recommend for someone that's just getting started, but again, I explain it in much more detail in LPP 2.0. But if you ever want to short, that means that you are borrowing shares and betting against the actual company, meaning that you would actually make money as the stock itself actually sells off. I want to give you an example of this. Today, I was shorting American Airlines. Again, I trade with a much larger dollar amount, so please do not compare your gains versus mine. Today, I made $14,233.30 on American Airlines shorting it. American Airlines reported earnings today. It reported positive earnings, but again, it's just not trying to predict the future, just waiting for it to react. It created a lot of selling pressure, and all day it sold off today. Lower highs, lower lows, and because of that, I decided to take a short position. And what that means is I can buy with a market order, I can buy with a limit order, all of that stays the same. It will create negative shares. So therefore, like right now, I left myself with negative 1,000 shares, right? Negative 1,000 shares. That means that I'm shorting that specific individual stock, right? Again, there's a lot more that goes into it, which I explain in more detail in LPP. But if it comes down to just wanting to learn how to buy to cover, meaning if I want to lock in profits, what I would then do is I would then buy 1,000 shares or whatever amount of shares I'm shorting with again. And then those shares, when I buy them, will pretty much lock in profits for the negative 1,000 shares that I have. So I have negative 1,000. Anytime you have negative shares, the idea is that you're shorting and then you just buy that same amount of quantity or whatever amount it is that you want to actually buy to cover. And then that's how you lock in profits on the Webull trading application. A very simple process. Now, when it comes down to the actual understanding of when to buy and when to sell, there's a thing that we call the 3 stages of a reversal, right? There's the rejection stage. And I want to give you a very quick example. And again, I explain this in much more detail in LPP 2.0, right? One of the things about the 3 stages of a reversal is that normally I want to make sure that confirmation and direction are in my favor, right? I take position size into consideration, risk management, risk to reward ratios, just like everything we talked about in video 1. But when it comes down to actually buying, right, I like to slow things down. This is something that I always preach to my LPP team during our live session. I want to use this day as an example. I love trading reversals. It's my preference. It's what I like to do. I don't recommend it for everyone. But when a stock is selling off, obviously when it's still selling off, forming lower highs, lower lows, it's like catching a falling knife. I don't want to try to predict the future or where the bottom of the stock is. I want it to present itself to me. So I stay patient, right? I wait for it to sell off. This is on the 5-minute time frame. And when we actually get confirmation that it breaks above the 5-minute EMA, then I ask myself, are we showing signs of progress? Are we showing signs of higher highs and higher lows, right? This is what we call the rejection phase when it's making lower highs, lower lows. That's stage 1. Then stage 2 is what we see right on over here. So let me draw it out for you. We could see this in stage 2 that it began to consolidate. So consolidation does not mean confirmation. It just means that it's lacking progress, meaning that it's potentially showing signs of either a support or a resistance, right? Depending on what side it is that you are on. So rejection, getting rejected by the EMA, lower highs, lower lows, very easy to see. It's selling off. It's an active sell-off, stage 1. Consolidation, stage 2, meaning that it's consolidating. It's not really making lower lows anymore, but it's just staying within the same range. And then confirmation, that's stage 3, when it's actually indicating signs of an upturn, right? We wait for the break above the EMA, we wait for higher highs and higher lows. I don't just wait for one green candle, I try to wait for actual higher highs and higher lows, signs of progress above that EMA, and asking myself a very simple question. Am I missing out by not being invested and or by having money in that trade? And if so, then again, I just add more to it, as long as direction is favorable and as long as it continues to respect this. Again, I shouldn't be scared when something pulls on back as long as it validates that EMA still as a support, then the pattern is still valid. Again, I explain this in more detail in LPP. But as you can see, higher highs, higher lows, and then ultimately it peaks out. And then you can see that after market hours, it broke below that EMA. And essentially, that's where I would have locked in profit, and or you lock in profits at wherever your price target might be, depending on your overall trade plan, right? One of the very simple sayings that we have within LPP is a goal without a plan is simply a plan to fail. I mean, that's aside from me trading reversals, aside from everything it is that we talked about, I hope that you just at least take that tip, right? Put yourself in a position in which you are putting yourself in a position to succeed. Therefore, do what most people don't. When you enter a trade or you're about to open a trade, just make sure that you look out for yourself, that you have, a desired entry, a desired exit, that you are making sure that you take position size into consideration, risk management into consideration, really, really, really being selective, waiting for direction to be in your favor, right? The analogy that we gave of allowing the current to go with you instead of against you. These are very simple things that a lot of people overlook, but it's the simple things in life that people tend to overcomplicate. And again, I'm no exception. I make these mistakes all the time. But that's why we try to preach that there is no time for someone to think that they're perfect in this market. There's no such thing as a perfect trader. Our goal shouldn't be to be perfect, but just to work on breaking those bad habits, which again is an ongoing process, right? So that's pretty much it when it comes down to this part 3. I wanted to show you how to buy, how to sell a stock. I even explained how to short a stock, and then I wanted to give you a example of one of my favorite patterns, which is the 3 stages of reversal. If you like that, then again, I think that you'll like how I break things down in LPP 2.0, which of course is the second link in the description down below. But without further ado, make sure you move on over to part 4, which is the live session with the LPP team, just so you can get a taste of what it's like to be able to watch me trade live. And again, that's something that is exclusive every single morning for our LPP team. So if you have any questions, feel free to send me a direct message via Discord, and that's that first link in the description down below. Like always, let's make sure that we end the year on a green note. Take it easy, team.